Imagine waking up to a message that changes everything. A friend, a fellow dinar holder, texting you a blurry photo of a bank receipt and 2 words that send your heart into your throat. It's happening. For years, it's been a chorus of tomorrow, next week, be patient. But this feels different because it's not coming from a shadowy guru on an online forum. It's coming from someone just like you who just walked into an exchange center and reportedly received their first official payout. This is the moment countless individuals have poured their hopes and savings into, the quiet dream of a life transformed by a single financial decision, and today, we are diving headfirst into the breaking reports, the on-the-ground whispers, and the tangible evidence that suggests the long-awaited, heavily debated, and passionately anticipated movement for the Iraqi dinar may be taking a significant, concrete step forward. The very phrase, exchange centers opening, has been a trigger for both euphoria and skepticism, a beacon in what has often felt like an endless sea of rumors, but the critical addition today is the second part of that headline. Dinar holders report payouts. This shifts the narrative from theoretical possibility to lived experience for some, and that is a seismic shift in this entire landscape. We are going to unpack this development from every possible angle, separating the potent emotional charge from the verifiable facts, because your financial future is too important to be left to hearsay. We will explore what these reported payouts actually entail. Are they the full revaluation so many have dreamed of, or is this a different, more procedural financial event that is being misinterpreted in the frenzy of excitement? The distinction is everything, and understanding it is the key to making empowered, rational decisions in a climate that is often anything but rational. Now, let's talk about the nature of these reports. The information flowing in is not from an official press release by the Central Bank of Iraq or a statement from the Ministry of Finance. It is anecdotal, it is social, it is viral. We are seeing videos, albeit often grainy and difficult to verify, of individuals inside what appear to be financial institutions, holding stacks of what is claimed to be foreign currency, primarily US dollars, after presenting their Iraqi dinar. We are reading testimonials in comment sections and private groups from people claiming to have successfully exchanged their dinar for a substantially higher value than the official prevailing rate, speaking of a sense of disbelief and jubilation. This grassroots, person-to-person reporting is powerful because it feels authentic. It lacks the polished, often sterile nature of official communications, and that very rawness is what gives it credibility in the eyes of many long-term holders who have grown weary of promises from supposed insiders. However, this same organic nature is also its greatest weakness, as the digital age is a fertile ground for sophisticated fabrication, wishful thinking manifested as reality, and coordinated campaigns that can make a handful of isolated incidents appear to be a widespread phenomenon. So, the first and most crucial step is to apply a filter of sober analysis to these exhilarating claims. We must ask the hard questions. Where precisely are these exchange centers located? Are they in Baghdad's affluent Al-Mansour district, in the bustling streets of Erbil, or in smaller, more provincial towns? The location can offer clues about the scale and authorization of the activity. Furthermore, who is reporting these payouts? Are they long-time, verified members of the dinar community with a history of reliable commentary, or are they newly created accounts with no digital footprint, potentially created to sow confusion or generate hype? The identity of the source is paramount. And perhaps most importantly, what are the specific, quantifiable terms of these exchanges? Is the rate being reported a single, unified, and dramatically higher number, like the mythical 1-to-1 or even 3-to-1 figures that have circulated for years, or are we looking at a more complex, tiered system where the exchange rate varies based on the volume of dinar being traded or the specific type of currency contract being executed? The devil, as they say, is in these details, and without them, we are navigating by starlight in a cloudy sky. The emotional whiplash of getting this wrong, of believing a paradigm shift has occurred when the underlying reality has only shifted slightly, can be financially and psychologically devastating. This is why we must now pivot from the reports themselves to the context in which they are occurring, to the recent actions and statements from the financial authorities within Iraq that may have set the stage for exactly this kind of activity, because nothing of this magnitude happens in a vacuum, and the groundwork for a major financial event is often laid months, even years, in advance through legislation, international agreements, and systemic banking reforms. To truly grasp the significance of these grassroots reports, we must pull the camera back from the individual exchange counters and look at the monumental shifts occurring within the halls of power in Iraq. Because the Central Bank of Iraq has been engaged in a quiet but relentless campaign to modernize its financial infrastructure and comply with international standards, a necessary precursor to any legitimate and sustained increase in the dinar's value. For decades, the dinar's potential has been hamstrung not just by political instability but by a financial system that was isolated, opaque, and vulnerable to manipulation. However, the recent strategic moves tell a different story, one of integration and maturation. The most critical of these moves is the relentless push towards de-dollarization, a policy not born out of mere nationalism but out of a profound need to assert monetary sovereignty. By restricting and, in many key domestic transactions, outright banning the use of the US dollar, the central bank is forcibly creating demand for its own currency, compelling both businesses and individuals to transact in dinar for everything from import licenses to real estate purchases. This artificial, yet powerful, creation of internal demand strengthens the dinar's foundation from within, building a floor beneath its value that wasn't there before. This is not a speculative rumor. This is documented policy, visible in the directives issued to local banks and the public announcements made to clarify the new transaction rules. Furthermore, this policy is inextricably linked to the broader, even more significant goal of finally dismantling the platform of the International Electronic Transfer System, a system that was rife with corruption and used to siphon billions out of the country through fraudulent invoices and ghost companies. The closure of this system and its replacement with a more transparent, centralized mechanism was a direct demand from the United States Federal Reserve and the international community, and Iraq's compliance is not optional if it wishes to rejoin the global financial community as a respected partner. This is the brutal, unglamorous work of building a legitimate economy. It's about anti-money laundering protocols, know your customer regulations, and real-time transaction monitoring. It is the opposite of exciting, but it is the very bedrock upon which a future revaluation could securely stand. So, when we hear reports of exchange centers opening for payouts, we must ask if what we are actually witnessing is the implementation of these new systems. Are these payouts actually the execution of legitimate, approved international trade transactions at a new, more formalized official rate, rather than a speculative windfall for individual currency holders? The distinction is critical. The central bank has also been actively working to control the massive disparity between the official exchange rate and the parallel market rate, a chasm that has been a source of economic distortion and public discontent. Through strategic injections of US dollars into the market and tighter controls on banks and exchange companies, they have managed to narrow that gap significantly in recent months. This convergence of rates is another essential prerequisite for stability. A country cannot have an internationally recognized, strong currency when there is a wildly different black market rate operating just down the street from the central bank. The narrowing of this gap is a tangible, measurable success that adds a layer of plausibility to the current reports. It suggests the financial environment is becoming more controlled, more centralized, and less chaotic, which is the only environment where a true revaluation could possibly be managed without causing economic chaos. Therefore, the activity being reported could be a combination of several things: the practical outcome of de-dollarization forcing new dinar-based liquidity, the operationalization of new financial channels for trade, and the visible effect of the official and parallel rates converging. This is a far more complex and nuanced picture than a simple flip of a switch revaluation event, but it is also a far more stable and realistic one. It suggests that the engine of the Iraqi economy is being painstakingly rebuilt while it's still in motion, and the sounds we are hearing, the reports of payouts and exchange center activity, may be the sounds of that new engine turning over, sputtering at first, but beginning to fire. This does not mean the life-changing potential for dinar holders is gone. On the contrary, it means that potential is being built on a foundation of financial reality rather than speculative sand. The path forward is likely to be one of gradual strengthening, of a slow and deliberate climb in value backed by oil revenues, agricultural potential, and a newly stabilized financial system, rather than a sudden, overnight fairy tale. This gradualist approach is how every other successful modern economy has been built, and it is the most probable path for Iraq. The real question for holders now shifts from, is it happening? To, what phase of the process are we in? And how do these reported payouts fit into that larger, more deliberate timeline? So, where does this leave you, the individual holder who has placed faith and funds into this vision of the future, standing at the crossroads of exhilarating viral reports and the slow, methodical march of economic reform? This is the moment where strategy is separated from impulse, where the long-term investor is separated from the short-term speculator. The convergence of anecdotal evidence and tangible financial policy creates a landscape more promising than it has been in years, but it is also a landscape fraught with new kinds of peril, primarily the danger of misinformation and emotional decision-making. The very real human stories of payouts, whether fully verified or not, create a powerful psychological pressure to act immediately, to rush to the nearest exchange center or to make a panicked purchase of more currency at a premium, and it is in this frenzied atmosphere that costly mistakes are born. Your greatest shield against this is not more information from the same echo chambers, but a disciplined, personal strategy built on your own financial goals and risk tolerance. Ask yourself the fundamental questions you may not have revisited since you first acquired your dinar. What was your original exit strategy? What specific life goal were you aiming to achieve? A debt-free existence, a generational trust for your children, philanthropic endeavors, or simply a comfortable retirement? Now, overlay the current situation onto that original plan. If these reports are the first signs of the culmination you've waited for, what is the specific number, the specific exchange rate, that would allow you to meet those goals and exit your position with confidence and security? Having that number firmly in your mind, written down and unchangeable, is your anchor in the coming storm of hype and volatility. It prevents you from selling too early out of fear that the opportunity will vanish, or holding on for too long out of greed for an ever higher number that may never materialize. This is not just about currency. It is about the discipline of wealth management, a discipline that will serve you far beyond this single investment. Furthermore, you must now become a master of verification. Before you act on any new report, demand a higher standard of proof. Look for multiple, independent sources from different geographic regions within Iraq. Scrutinize any documents or videos for inconsistencies or signs of digital manipulation. Prioritize information from established financial institutions or reputable, on-the-ground journalists over anonymous social media posts. This proactive due diligence is your new full-time responsibility because the stakes have never been higher. The path ahead is likely to be non-linear. There will be days of stunningly positive news followed by periods of silence or even contradictory reports that cause doubt to resurface. This is the natural rhythm of a complex global financial event unfolding in real time. Your ability to maintain emotional equilibrium, to not be swayed by every peak and valley in the news cycle, will be the ultimate determinant of your outcome. Remember, the structural factors, the de-dollarization, the compliance with international banking standards, the narrowing of exchange rates, the nation's vast oil and mineral wealth. These are the slow-moving tides that truly dictate the currency's destiny, not the individual waves of daily reports. These tides are turning in a favorable direction, building momentum that is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The dream that brought you into this investment is now being touched by the fingertips of reality, but the final grasp requires patience, wisdom, and a clear head. The journey of the Iraqi dinar is transitioning from a story of potential to a story of performance, and you have a front-row seat to one of the most fascinating financial narratives of our time. Stay vigilant, stay rational, and most importantly, stay prepared for the moment when your patience is finally rewarded, because when that moment fully arrives, it will demand clarity of thought and decisive action. And now, I have a critical request for you. If this analysis has provided you with value, with a clearer perspective, or with a moment of calm in the storm, then you have to take action right now. This is not just a suggestion, it's a necessary step for your own journey. First, you must subscribe to this channel and ring the notification bell. Because when the next major update breaks, when the official confirmation comes, or when a critical new development occurs that could impact your financial future, you need to hear it from a source that prioritizes clarity and evidence over hype and sensation. I am committed to being that source for you, but I can only do that if you are here to receive the information. Secondly, you need to share this video with just one other person in your circle who is also on this journey. Share it with your spouse, with your investment partner, or with a fellow dinar holder whose judgment you trust. The conversation you spark from sharing this could be the very thing that helps them avoid a costly mistake or solidifies their own strategy, and building a network of informed, rational individuals is our strongest collective defense against the chaos of misinformation. Do not wait. Do not put it off. Take these 2 simple steps right now, subscribe and share, because in a situation this fluid, knowledge isn't just power, it's profit, it's security, and it's your pathway to peace of mind. The news is breaking now. Stay informed, stay engaged, and I will see you in the next update.